Today we are going to be doing Chapter 4, Lesson 3, going over linear function patterns. So we've got one vocab word for this lesson, and it's linear function. And that is a function whose graph is a line. So I'm going to be going over some examples with you guys that you should be writing down in your notes, so that you can use them for your homework and on your test that you will be having very soon. All right. So our first example is going to be finding a linear function using a graph. So we have a graph here with the points -2, -6, -0, -3, 2, 0, and 4, 3. So we're going to use the graph to write a linear function that relates y to x. So what we're going to need to do is we need to find the slope and the y-intercept for this graph. So to find our slope, it's the rise over run. So you can either count it out or do it algebraically, where I just used these 2 points to find our slope. So 3 minus 0 over 4 minus 2 gives us a slope of 3 over 2. Our y-intercept is at the point 0, -3. So our y-intercept is -3, giving us a linear function that is y equals 3 over 2x minus 3. So that is finding a linear function using a graph. So that is our first example. Next, we are going to look at finding a linear function using a table. So we are given the table x equals -3, -2, -1, and 0, and y equals 9, 7, 5, and 3. So what we first need to do is we need to plot the points in the table onto a graph. So we've got our graph here, and we need to plot our points. So we've got 0, 3, -1, 5, -2, 7, and -3, 9. Okay, so those are our points. They're in a line, and so we need to find the slope and the y-intercept. So once again, you can either count it or do it algebraically, or we just use 2 of our points to find the rise over our run. So 3 minus 5 is -2. 0 minus a -1 is 1. We have -2 over 1, which gives us a slope of -2. Our y-intercept is at the point of 0, 3, giving us a y-intercept of 3. And so our linear function is y equals -2x plus 3. And so that is finding a linear function using a table. Next, we're going to do a word problem. And it's going to be a multi-step word problem. It's going to ask us to find 3 different things. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is graph the data that is in our table here. So we're doing hours kayaking, which is our x, and the calories that are burned, which is our y. So we've got 2 hours and we burned 600 calories, 4 hours, 1200, 6 hours, 1800, and in 8 hours, you burn 2400 calories. So it wants us to first, answer A, is the domain discrete or continuous? And then B, write a linear function that relates y to x. And then finally, with C, how many calories do you burn in 4.5 hours? So the first thing that we need to do is we need to graph the data that is in the table. So they give us the table, and then we need to graph that data. So we graph our data. So we've got hours for X, calories burned is our Y. So our first point is going to be 2 600. Our next one is 4 1200, 6 1800, and then 8 2400. So we've graphed our points and they do form a line. So letter A first wants us to find out, is the domain discrete or continuous? So we've plotted the points, and because time can represent any value greater than or equal to 0, it is going to make our domain continuous. So our domain is going to be continuous. And we can draw our line through our points. So letter B wants us to write a function that relates y to x. So we're writing a linear function, and just like we did with our other two examples, we need to find our y-intercept and our slope. So our slope is going to be our rise over run. $1,200 minus $600. 4 minus 2. Which gives us a 600 over 2. And we can reduce that to 300 over 1, or 300. So our slope is 300. Our y-intercept is going to be at 0. Our point is 0, 0. So our y-intercept is 0. So for our linear function is going to be y equals 300x. And that is our linear function. And then C wants to know how many calories do you burn in 4.5 hours. So 4.5 is a time, so that's an x. So we're just going to plug in that 4.5 for our x to figure out what y would be, and y is our calories burned. So y equals 300 times 4.5. Which is going to be 1,350 calories. So in 4.5 hours, you would burn 1,350 calories. And that is linear functions and finding linear functions. So you are now doing your on your own questions, and I will see you in class. We will go over these questions and I will answer any questions that you have, and then we'll do our homework assignment as well. So I will see you in class.